Recently, I rode my 2015 BMW R1200R from the DFW Metroplex to North Arkansas for a solo motorcycle trip through the Ozarks. While I did not hit all the renowned motorcycle routes of the Ozarks, I rode several of them, and I am sharing my Ozark experience in a series of videos. This video is part of that series. On my second full day of riding in Arkansas, I once again headed east from Eureka Springs to Harrison. Before arriving in Arkansas, I planned rides for the various days. I always figure it's good to have a very detailed plan, because then you're sure to have something you can screw up royally. The triple-digit heat indexes on the previous day's ride really zapped my energy and called for a change of plans. Could I have still muscled through and stuck with my original plan? Of course. But the point of the trip was to have fun and enjoy the ride, so I decided to shorten my planned route. Besides, I seriously relate to the lyrics of a Jason Isbell song, "I never do what I'm supposed to do." My altered plan combined parts of two different routes, the Twisted Lady and the Arkansas Dragon. In the process of butchering the route, I cut out some of the key parts of the Twisted Lady, but the fact was, the ride was for me. The Twisted Lady route was named after the 19th century outlaw Belle Starr, who was also known as, well, the Twisted Lady. Very original. She reportedly traveled regularly on a trail that is now Highway 327. When you research Twisted Lady for motorcycle riding, you will find the route is made up of more than just Highway 327. The portion of the route that I rode started in Harrison and took Highway 43 south to the junction of Highway 21. Where I continued my way south. I remained on Highway 21 south until I turned east on Highway 292, just a few miles north of Clarksville. Whereas the previous day was characterized by seemingly endless sunlight and a high of 100 degrees, this day was overcast with a high of 93. To make things even better, the temperature was below 90 degrees much of the day. 10 degrees may not sound like a big difference, but I promise it made all the difference in the world. And yeah, the cloud cover, that wasn't bothering me one bit. I had grand plans of stopping at a local place for lunch. But my impatience got the better of me, and I'm embarrassed to say, I grabbed McDonald's in Harrison just to make things fast and easy. Did I have the time to sit at a restaurant and really take things in? Yes, I really did, but I was anxious to ride. There's a reason I'm Restless Mule. And also I had something special planned for dinner in Eureka Springs, so I needed to get back to my hotel at a pretty decent time. I left McDonald's with a fair amount of self-loathing, but that's pretty customary for my existence, so I'm quite adept at dealing with it. That usually involves making promises to myself that on some subconscious level I already know is complete bullshit. Things like, I'll eat better tomorrow, I'll drink more water tomorrow, I'm not going to get emotionally invested in this football season, and I'm going to stop using profanity. Anyway, I digress. That's all more than any of you care to know. Leaving Harrison on Highway 43 was noticeably different from the day before when I left on Highway 7. Almost immediately upon leaving Harrison, I realized there were no vehicles in sight traveling the same direction as me, and there were very few vehicles traveling the opposite direction as me. I briefly contemplated the possibility that the motorcycle gods were trying to make up for the day before, but then I figured it was unlikely any deity would look favorably on a person that drinks Diet Coke with a McDonald's meal, as though that creates some kind of healthy equilibrium. Perhaps the simplest explanation is, and was, the best and truest explanation. There just isn't much in this area, so there aren't many vehicles on the road. Truth be told, that's my favorite explanation. I love areas like that. The fewer people, the better. The more secluded, the better. It's more relaxing, and it seems to add a sense of adventure. Granted, that all goes to shit when you need help and there's nobody else around, but hey, I'm in the middle of romanticizing a grand adventure. By the time I reached Ponca, the highway dropped down into a wide valley known as Boxley Valley. The highway runs mostly parallel to the Buffalo River through the Boxley Valley as each gently sweep through the valley floor. Though the rock faces no longer adorn the sides of the road, the scenery was no less impressive. In fact, I can easily say the ride through Boxley Valley was the most scenic section of the route. I found myself in complete amazement of the views, as well as the feeling of relaxation and shelter. Obviously, I don't mean shelter from the weather, I mean shelter from the world. Riding through this valley felt like I was riding through a different world, or a different time, or heck, maybe even a different dimension. This place truly felt special, and since returning home, I have wondered if that feeling was reserved to that moment in time, or if I would experience it again if I returned to Boxley Valley. Regardless, I can honestly say that I didn't take the experience for granted. It goes without saying that a feeling cannot be captured by a camera, but I also feel like it is important to share the disclaimer that a GoPro does not adequately capture the beauty of this area. Before riding to Boxley Valley, I read there are elk in the area. However, I did not see any while riding through, nor did I expect to see any, especially since I was riding through in the middle of the day. I think elk are magnificent animals, but if we're being honest, I'm perfectly happy not seeing elk or deer while riding my motorcycle. There are numerous hiking trails in the area, but I thought it best to stick with the riding. I enjoy hiking, but the thought of hiking in July while wearing riding boots is not the least bit appealing, and I left my extra shoes at the hotel. In addition to hiking in Boxley Valley, there are several kayak and rafting options on the Buffalo River. If I had more time, that is absolutely something I would want to do. Considering the incredible views from the road, I'm certain the views from the river would be amazing. A few miles after turning onto Highway 21, the highway meets the southern end of Boxley Valley and the road begins to climb. Through much of this stretch, the road is flanked by dense vegetation on both sides. Occasionally, a rock face would suddenly peek through the sea of leaves, or, at times, the vegetation would thin enough on one side of the road to catch glimpses of the forest below the guardrail. Based on the limited vehicles I saw on the road, it certainly appeared that I was on a highway to nowhere. I suppose that's more comforting than, say, being on a highway to hell, but AC/DC made that sound pretty fun, so maybe I'm wrong about that. Regardless, it was somewhat shocking to me that there were so few vehicles on the road. I was particularly surprised that I didn't encounter more motorcycles. While the weather turned out to be quite ideal on the day I rode, I presume many motorcyclists generally avoid riding through the area during midday in the middle of July. Whatever the explanation, the lack of traffic added to the enjoyment. The farther I traveled south, the more frequently I saw vehicles on the road, and I began to notice a gradual increase in homes alongside the highway. Though no one would accuse the area of even being moderately populated. I also noticed the temperature rising from earlier in the day, and I noticed a slight uptick in the humidity. Even with those changes in conditions, it was still comfortable for riding. While there were many things to enjoy about this road, the most enjoyable thing for me personally was just seeing the rocks alongside the road. Having grown up in Louisiana, I basically developed a lifelong fascination with rocks. You may wonder, what the hell does someone from Louisiana know about rocks? And the answer to that, at least if that someone is me, is, well, nothing. I know nothing about rocks. I really don't know anything about rocks besides the basics we're taught in high school, and, well, truth be told, I'm sure I forgot most of that stuff. But they're still fascinating to me. Growing up in Louisiana, I only saw two things: water and mud. The fact that people lived in places where they saw rocks every day absolutely amazed me. I thought those must be the most exotic locations on Earth. To this day, I still think it's cool when I see rocks or a mountain. Once I was south of the small community of Boxley, I was without cell service for most of the remaining 45 miles of the ride. My provider is AT&T, so I can only speak to their service. Perhaps another provider has better coverage through this area. Even still, there's enough traffic through here that one would not be alone if they needed any assistance. The only gas station I remember passing between Harrison and Clarksville was in Ponca. However, the stretch I rode was merely 76 miles, so it's certainly possible to ride that route without stopping for fuel. Most of the highway is in good shape. At the northern end, particularly between Harrison and Ponca, I encountered gravel in a few places, several times in a curve. Aside from the few observed patches of gravel, there were no sections of the ride that stuck out to me as hazardous. In all, it was a relaxing ride that I would highly recommend, and I hope others would have my same good fortune with very light traffic. Oh, and about those special dinner plans in Eureka Springs, yeah, well, this is what it was. And it did not disappoint.